All right. So tonight we are going to jump back into our series about how God displays his powers through the elements of earth, fire, air, and water. And tonight we will be getting started on air. Going to take a look at how it all began and work our way from there. So if you all are ready, go and hop on in, kick your seat back, put your feet up, put your seatbelt on, and y'all come on, take this ride with me as we start looking at how God displays his power through the elements of air, wind, the heavens, pretty much. All right, let's do it. All right, hello, hi, and howdy. This is your man's J.K. Moore. Welcome back to Breaking Tradition. So, like I said, we've already taken a look at how God displays his power through the element of fire. Then we took a look at how God displays his power through the element of earth and land. And now we're here at air. So, not to belabor the time, let's go ahead and jump right on into it. All right. And because we have so many passages to cover, rather than do my usual thing of creating the slides, I was like, bump it. Let's go ahead to BibleGateway.com. Just use the Bible and we'll just go straight from there. So, again, since we're talking about how the beginning of how God displays his power through the air, through the winds, through the heavens, as the Bible calls it, well, we're going to go right back to the creation of the heavens themselves. Where do we find that at? Genesis chapter 1, starting with verse number 1. All right. Genesis chapter 1, starting with verse number 1. And the subheading for this section is the account of creation. And it reads, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Okay, we're not going to read all these through the entire account of God's creation. We just want to focus in on, like I said, the heavens, the air, the wind, anything dealing with the literal heavens, the sky. So it says right here that in the beginning, God created the heavens. Now, that right away could prompt a question, and it'd be a sensible question. When it says heavens, does it also include the realm of heaven where God and Jesus and the 24 the judges and all the heavenly angels, that dimension, that location where they dwell and where they stay at? Be completely honest, possibly. Or that particular dimension of heaven could have already existed. And when it says heavens right here, and as you see all throughout the Bible, it's not all the time talking about that dwelling place of God and Jesus the Christ and all the heavenly hosts. Okay, when it says heavens, it quite literally is talking about what we call outer space, our outer atmosphere, and what we call our sky. So when it says that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, more than likely what it's talking about is, again, that outer space, outer atmosphere, sky realm. But to be completely honest, it could be talking about that dwelling place as well. Because it says in the beginning, so it could be talking about the creation of it all, the whole shebang bang. Okay, if he hadn't even created the angels yet, then quite naturally they wouldn't need a place to dwell. At this point, the Godhead, they were still together doing their thing, this process of creation. So, not like they would have needed a particular place of their own to be at. So, my personal opinion and my expert, humbled opinion, it could go both ways. It could also include the dwelling place of God, heavens, or it could just be talking about all the heavens, all the different areas, all the different dimensions, all the different spheres actually below the final heaven. So interesting. But as far as, for right now, let's just keep it earthbound, so to speak. When it say he created the heavens, we're just going to take that to mean outer space, our upper atmosphere, and the sky. Okay, so let's skew the boot on down here. I think we're looking at verse number, what was it, 6? Yes. Okay, so still in Genesis chapter 1, scoot down to verse number 6. And it reads, then God said, let there be a space between the waters to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth. And this is what happened. God made this space to separate the waters of the earth from the waters of the heaven. God called the space sky. And evening passed and morning came, making the second day. Okay. So now I'd say we get a bit more of a firm answer to that original question in verse number 1 when it mentions that God created the heavens. Where right here in verse number 6, where he says, let's create a space to separate the waters from the heavens, from the waters from the earth. Now there should be no doubt in our mind, or at least in my mind. Okay, however you choose to take a look at it, that's you. But mine's, okay, yeah, right here, he is firmly just referring to outer space and the upper atmosphere of the planet Earth. Okay, he's not talking about his final dwelling place where he dwells, where his throne is, where everybody's situated at. And some people might be like, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? There's no water in outer space. Yeah, well, not to get too technical, actually, ice particles do exist in outer space. So if there's ice, naturally, there has to be water to turn into ice. But that's not what it's talking about here. In the beginning, and this is cobbled together by studies, this is cobbled together by people's research, and then part of it is just cobbled together by what people's theories or thoughts. When God created the earth, there was for lack of a better term, a layer of water that surrounded it from the outer space side. Now, why that was, God only knows. How that was, which is more the question I would ask, because again, outer space is extremely cold. Okay, we're talking sub-zero temperatures here. So the fact that a shield, if that's even a good word, of water was able to exist out there in the coldness of space, the cold vacuum of space. It has all outer space honestly is. It's just a giant vacuum. There's no atmosphere. There's no gravity. Okay, none of that. The fact that this shield, this surrounding sphere of water was able to exist out there as water and not freeze up in space, okay, it had to only be in the hand of God. Because everything we know about astronomy, physics, geography, temperature, all that stuff, okay, all that pales in comparison, and none of it that I've seen could explain how that these waters of the heavens could have, like I said, could have remained as water. Now, in the Bible, when it's actually talking about, so somebody might ask, okay, well, wait a minute. Maybe, yeah, it was water, but maybe he was talking about ice. Because like we already said, yes, water molecules do exist in space. They don't exist as water alone because of their freezing temperatures, it automatically becomes ice. That's pretty much all a comet is. Yeah, it's other dust and particles and stuff, but essentially it's a giant ice cube just blasting its way through outer space. So some people might be like, okay, well, maybe that's the waters he's talking about. Maybe, yeah, even though it's surrounded, it was really a layer of ice. Well, the Bible, when it talks about ice, it literally says the word ice. So that leads me to believe when he talks about the waters of the heavens right here in number 6, no, it was still in its liquid form, just like the water we drink, just essentially our ocean surrounding our planet, which is exactly what the waters of the earth were. That was talking about here in verse number 7, what we call the oceans, the seas. So you got the waters out there in the heavens and the waters here that were still at this point, because remember, it's not till down here around verse 9ish or 10ish that the firmament, the land that we live on, came about. So let's just keep it to 6 through 8. At this point, it was the entire surface was still just water, oceans, seas, the waters of the earth. So yeah, you can picture it in your mind, or for those of you who are watching this on YouTube or Rumble, you actually see the thumbnail. Yeah, that space between here, our land, and that water out there in the heavens is the sky. What we know as the sky, because that's what he called it, the sky. Now, he could have worked this all around to where it all connected. It could have been the waters go literally, the waters of the earth literally bust out the earth and connect to the waters of the heaven. But he knew what he was doing. Mainly and foremost because he was not creating us to be aquatic beings. Okay, we weren't made to be able to survive in water, which is why he had to have a limit, so much water on the surface, but then the dry land had to come about because that's where he intended for us to prosper. And as we saw in the last part of the teaching on this about the earth, of course, we know that's what mankind was formed out of, the dust of the earth. And then he breathed life into us with the Holy Ghost. So yes, that's why there had to be a separation of the waters, but not a total separation. Not a total separation. I'm going to tell y'all what I mean by that. The sky itself, speaking of water molecules, that is why the sky, or where the sky gets its blue coloration from. I mean, yeah, different times of sunset or whatever, different things going on. Yeah, it might change colors from time to time, but generally the sky is blue. The reason for that, and actually funnily enough, the sky really isn't blue, but because of the water molecules that exist in the sky and in the air, and the sunlight that bounces off of them, that's what gives the sky its blue color. It's all the water molecules up there. So like I said, again, that actually, once again, science and kingdom belief coincide and get together there a little bit to let us know, okay, yeah, there had to have been a whole lot of watering going on between outer space and between the surface of the oceans, and it's still going on to a lesser extent with the blue coloration of the sky. Okay. So let's go down here to verse number 14. All right. And it reads, then God said, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth. And that is what happened. God made two great lights, the larger one to govern the day and the smaller one to govern the night. He also made stars. God set these lights in the sky to light the earth, to govern the day and night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. Okay. See how they use the word heavens and sky interchangeably there? So these lights in the sky that he's talking about clearly it's talking about the stars, what we call the stars. And the two great ones, the verse number 16, the large one to govern the day and the smaller one to govern the night, is of course talking about the large one to govern the day, what we call the sun, and the smaller one to govern the night, what we call the moon. All these working in tandem and together. Whenever we can see any phase of the moon, it's not the moon itself producing any of its own light, neither is that stars, the light from stars bouncing off of it and showing it to us. No, whenever we can see any phase of the moon, that's the sun. Yeah, it's actually the sun lighting it up and allowing us to see that, which is pretty cool. Without naming the channel's name, ain't trying to bring nobody out. On social media, I recently came across a very interesting post, and apparently the group is dedicated to what's called flat earthers. Now, I'm sure a lot of y'all out there are familiar with the term, familiar with the people who believe that, but for anybody who's not, these are people who literally, as it sounds, they don't believe that the earth is a sphere, okay, a third dimensional sphere. They really think that the earth is flat. Yeah. So I had a question that I posed, and the question was, okay, so any one of us can hop on grab a telescope and peer out into the sky, the night sky, or the heavens there. We can see that the other planets are spheres. They're round, complete third dimensional spheres. Can't look directly at the sun, but if it's to be trusted, any video we've been given of the sun is also a sphere. And of course, we can look at the moon, and on a full moon, or honestly, most of its phases, and can tell it's also a sphere. So my question was, okay, so all the other luminaries and solar bodies are shaped like spheres, but when it came to Earth, God decided to make it flat. And well, the response I got back to that query was one, okay, if somebody had bet me money, I would have lost. I never would have thought that would have been the response I got back. The response I got back was, no, the other solar bodies aren't spheres. They're round discs, almost like 1 or 2 dimensional. I was like, wow. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Now, amazing that ancient people, speaking of Genesis, for those of us who believe the beginning of it all, the beginning of the earth and everything here, the people during this time had enough knowledge to create what we know as astronomy. Some of them even took the next step, astrology, geography and physics and all these other things, let alone if you ever get your hands on the books of Enoch, where he gives a way more in-depth detail about the creation process, including actually being taken to the angels that govern the movement of the sun and the moon and the gates and the portals they come out of and go into and all these things. Okay, all that to say, people thousands of years ago been figured out that the earth is a sphere. Okay, that its rotation is spherical. And then again, got to give it up to science again. Okay, coming together, you know, science and belief. There's more than enough science out there to prove this exact same thing, that the earth is round, it's a sphere. But again, these people, they choose not to believe that. They present their own data and statistics and all that good stuff. So yeah, looking at this, going over this account here, it made me think about that. And they actually used this account from Genesis, where it talks about how God separated the waters and the firmament and all these other things to create some, pretty pictures. I'll give them that much. Not quite sure what was missed in translation to the people who originally came up with the flat earth theory, but yeah, clearly something was missing. Yeah. No, I'm not going to harp on this too much longer. Why? Because I've been enjoying the past week and some change, the whole trip going past the moon by Artemis 2. Yeah, okay. So you mean the group of people that were in a studio somewhere filming this, just like they did back in the 50 years ago, and even the director, very famous director, man, directed one of my favorite movies, The Shining, Stanley Kubrick, on his deathbed, admitted that the whole moon landing 50 years ago was fake. One of the astronauts who was on there, he admitted, now I'm pretty sure his was by accident. I don't know if he knew that there was a hot mic near him, even though I'm not sure how he didn't know, considering there were reporters and things there. He let slip that it was all fake. And there have been a ton of people in the astronomy community, I mean, actual verified astronomers, that take that footage and they break it down. Shadows, degrees. Okay, the flag blowing in space. Yeah, there's a such thing as solar winds, but not as we know wind. All types of stuff. But hey, you got people who believe it's all true. They really went 50 years ago. No matter what, the mounting evidence and questions say, hey, people are going to believe what they believe. Okay. Cool. Fine. As I always say, I'm not here to change anybody's, not here to change your mind. Nor sure can't tell you what to believe and what to do. I'm just here to present the information. And going by this information, yeah, the earth is round. The moon is round. The sun is round. The only thing that's not round is people blasting in outer space going round the moon. Okay, yeah, that's where we can stop the roundness at. But anyway, yes. So we are actually going to stop it right there for tonight. But just wanted to introduce how God worked his power, how God works through the heavens and the sky and the air and the wind. When we come back next week, God willing, if we come back next week, we are going to continue on through this, show a few more Old Testament examples, and then, of course, we're going to eventually wrap it all up with some New Testament examples. But it's interesting the way it started off here and how we got our sky. Of course, where the wind blows through provides our air. And it's not just the sky itself that provides the air. Actually, the trees that provide the oxygen, a whole ecosystem there that works all together. But it's the sky to where, again, the realm, the dimension, whatever term you want to use, that these things generate in, that they linger, that they blow through. Wind itself, in and of itself, very powerful. I always wonder why wind isn't considered like its own element, but I guess it kind of makes sense because, wind, horrific. If you think about a storm, yes, water, horrible, most destructive element on the planet. But when you get some water and you get the strong winds behind it, see that's tornadoes, hurricanes, typhoons, tsunamis. Again, even though most of those involve water, the water in and of itself wouldn't do that damage. It's the wind that stirs that water up and blows it past its natural boundaries. That's where you get your issues and your trouble. So no matter which part of these elements, the fire, the earth, and now the air, God demonstrates and he keeps on demonstrating. Sometimes it's not judgment. He's not exacting judgment or punishing humanity for things. A lot of other times he is. So just depends on who's being punished and the situation. All right. All right. So as always, I want to thank you all so much for joining this old country boy and listen to me jaw about it for a little while. I do appreciate it. I was supposed to put this up at the beginning, but hey, no time like the present. And if you all would, if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, please make sure to drop a like for a brother. Make sure to leave a comment. Hey, let me know what you think about air and sky, or even if you think the earth is flat. I mean, hey, let's talk about it all, okay? Like I always say, I'm a forever student. I'm always up to learn something new and discuss things. And also, if you would share the video, you can do the exact same thing. If you want to hear the audio version of it again on the go, then you can head over to Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, or Spreaker.com. Links to the audio versions will be in the description of the video version. Both video and audio completely for free. So guys, download them, share them, listen to them to your heart's content. Hey, it's all good with me. Appreciate it. Like I said, if you watch it, if you would just make sure to drop a like and a comment. And if you think somebody might want to hear the information, do a share, and that will help go towards getting the show put on the algorithm. Okay. So until then, guys, hey, remember, it's fine to love yourselves. Seek to love other people just a little bit more, though. It is Jesus's first command to us: love, 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 even if you have to do it from afar. Trust me, I know, okay? I get it. But let's try to love each other. As always, stay watchful, stay prayerful, stay safe, guys. There is a lot happening. There's a lot more to come. Not to be, Mr. Doom and Gloom here, but hey, it's just the way it is. Everything we see happening, not only in our society, but in the world, this is literally the tip of the iceberg of what's about to go down on this planet. And that is why I sit here in my geek cave doing what I do. It is about sharing the information, getting people aware of the kingdom of God, not religion, not Christianity, aware of the kingdom of God, just like Jesus the Christ did. Okay? And letting us know to be ready to do our part in the kingdom of God while it's still here on earth. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Okay? So let's make sure we're doing our part here before we get to heaven and do our part for that kingdom there. All right. All right. Well, again, till then, guys, stay safe, stay prayed up. Appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all when I see you. Peace.